Welcome to the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rosensweet, mom of 3 young people, peaceful parenting coach, and your cheerleader and guide on all things parenting. Each week, we'll cover the tools, strategies, and support you need to end the yelling and power struggles and encourage your kids to listen and cooperate so that you can enjoy your family time. I'm happy to say we have a great relationship with our 3 kids. The teen years have been easy and joyful, not because we're special unicorns, but because my kids were raised with peaceful parenting. I've also helped so many parents just like you stop struggling and enjoy their kids again. I'm excited to be here with you today and bring you the insight and information you need to make your parenting journey a little more peaceful. Let's dive into this week's conversation. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. Today's episode is a coaching episode with Beth. Beth is the mom of 3 kids, and if she didn't have her third, she might not have ever wanted to come on the podcast, but her third child, Sophie, her 8-year-old, is one of our kids that we call more or extra. And Beth is relatively new to Peaceful Parenting. She's actually a member of my Peaceful Parenting membership, and she really just wanted some more help with making sure that she was on the right track with Sophie. And you know, sometimes we can be doing all the things and still find it hard when we have our more or extra kids. We did find a number of ways that Beth could tweak what she was doing, change her mindset a little bit, change how she responded to Sophie. And if you stick around, you will find out what happened when we check in again with her a month later. I also just wanted to share with you a very funny podcast review that I got. And you know how they say that you haven't made it until you get negative feedback. I want to share with you, out of hundreds of ratings that we've gotten, 5-star ratings, I got my first 1-star rating and a negative podcast review. And I'm chuckling. You can maybe hear it in my voice because I don't even know why this person was listening to our podcast, to be honest. So the headline is, I just can't. And this person gave me a 1-star review and they said, I just can't with this podcast. So woke, it literally hurt me to listen. I understand gentle parenting, but saying children don't deserve to be punished, that's ludicrous. So first of all, I don't think they do understand gentle parenting or respectful parenting or responsive parenting or peaceful parenting or whatever you want to call it. But I honestly, I had to chuckle a little bit, but it did make our ratings go down. Our average has now dropped from 5 stars to 4.9 stars. So if you want to help us get back up to 5 stars, please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. And if you would like to leave a review to balance out the I just can't, so woke it literally hurt me to listen review, I would love to hear from you and what this podcast has meant to you. And if, as you're listening to the podcast with Beth, you're interested in the Peaceful Parenting membership, it's not actually open for enrollment right now. We only enroll new members twice a year so that I can really focus on supporting the members inside the membership. You can, though, get on the wait list to be notified the next time the membership is available for enrollment, and that's at sararosensweet.com/membership. So let's hear from Beth. I love Beth's energy. I think that you will also, and I think that if you are a parent of one of those more or extra kids, you will totally be able to relate to both Beth's challenges with Sophie and also the questions that have come up for her around peaceful parenting and this process. And thanks to Beth for coming on and being so vulnerable with us and sharing this with all of us. I think that you all will learn a lot from her. Hi, Beth. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Beth, and we have 3 children. Jared is 13. He has significant special needs. He was born 13 weeks early and is medically fragile. He's medically complex, followed at sick kids. He's got, he's in a wheelchair. He's nonverbal and requires a lot from us, obviously. And then we have a 10-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter.
Okay, great. So COVID must have been tough on you with a medically fragile child.
So yes, as it was with everybody, there was like an additional level of stress for sure with him getting sick, and he dodged it. We all did for a while, but then of course we ended up all getting it in July of 2022. And so we missed like those first really bad and hard peaks, but then when he had it, it was tough, and he's had a very rough year, to say the least, medically. But we're in a good place in April 2023, which we're at right now is a good
Good.
time. And we're just going to keep going. All three kids are at school today. So that is a good day
Good.
in our house.
You told me before we started that we're mostly going to be talking about your 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. So how can I support you today? And you've
Okay.
told me also that she's in the 20% of
Shiver.
kids that we talk about, and your other kids, even your son with the more significant special needs, your other two are more the 80% kids, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Which I didn't know. And I've learned so much in the last few months, and in particularly, it's true. I'm saying it on your podcast, but it's actually true. I've literally learned so much since I've met you and
Oh,
learned
good.
about, and I've listened to your podcast and read all kinds of things that you've written, and I just honestly, becoming your member has been like a very empowering piece for me because I feel like there's
Aw,
actually something that I can finally do that's actually helping her.
good.
Yeah, it's huge. It's been a very big struggle with her emotionally, and I think, you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about, where is this coming? Like, why, how? I myself, and I'm an emotional person. I know I don't think I was like that when I was 8, but I also know maybe why I wasn't like that when I was 8. It was the 80s, and we weren't allowed in my house to share our emotions and share
Mm-hmm.
our feelings. It was like I had the fear of my
Yeah.
father in
Yeah.
particular, and I just was like, no, I had to cry by myself alone in my room, and I did, and I want to do better for her. And
Aw.
we are doing better for her already. And we want a more peaceful home. I think you asked me on one of our other calls how I found you, and I'm like, I didn't remember. But then I remembered it was a very rough patch with Sophie where she was just her emotional regulation. She's just very, very extra or a
Mm-hmm.
super feeler or whatever you want to however you
Mm-hmm.
want to describe the 20%. And she was going through a really, really, really tough time. This was in January, of course, when our older son was quite sick and in and out of hospital, which we know is very challenging for everybody, but in
Mm-hmm.
particular, as someone who's even more sensitive, I think everyone has a hard time with it. Our whole family obviously does because we're,
Yeah.
one parent's at the hospital, one parent's at home. We're going back and forth, we're juggling, and everyone's split apart. And obviously, our stress levels obviously very high. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it was just after he had come home, and I think maybe that also was a time where she can kind of release her emotions because finally it's like, okay, mommy and daddy are more present
Right.
now. They're here to
And he's
be
out of the
more
hospital and safe and
correct. So that tiger in the room, let's say, if you will, has kind of subsided, but now I'm going to be the tiger in the room. But of
yeah.
course, at that point, we need some calm as well. And what we've learned is there's sort of like that cycle that goes on in our family like that, where, but not always with his illness, but with something else, for
Yeah.
example. And then she comes home and she just, you know, her emotions are everywhere. Sorry, I did lose my train of thought there. I
Oh, well, you
apologize.
were just
So,
going to say how you found
oh yes,
me
and then
and the
yes, okay, yes. So then I was Googling because I've Googled and I've read and I've done so much, and I've done the rewards. I have. We've had sticker charts in our house. We've had a little toy box that we've done all of those things in terms of trying to regulate her emotions. If she had a good morning,
Mhm.
whatever that looked like. And the mornings were the toughest. I've had you know, so I feel, I'm blessed in a lot of ways because I do have some education background. So I
Mhm.
do know how to, create the sticker charts. Mm. And create, right, which I don't know if it's a good thing. I'm like cringing saying it, but because it never really worked.
Mhm.
It would work like
Honestly, most people come to peaceful parenting, not most people, a lot of people come to peaceful parenting who have those extra kids. They try conventional parenting approaches and they don't work. So they're like, "Oh my, tearing their hair out. What else can I do?" And then
correct.
they find this other way. So that's sort of what was your journey?
Definitely. Definitely a big part of our journey was trying so many other things and things that have worked in other settings or things that have worked with other children, or things that, I would find like so many different strategies. But then the
Mhm.
strategy would work for like 3 or 4 days and we'd have to try again. And then, she would be highly motivated at the beginning, but then all of a sudden her emotions would just spiral and really be very challenging. And again, particularly the mornings were and mornings are still hard. We had a hard morning today.
Mhm.
And I have to say, very excited. My husband actually said to me, "You did a good job this morning."
Aw.
Yes. I was like,
Nice.
"Thank you." Because we know, and now I know, I'm very aware that it's more about my stop, dropping, and breathing,
Yeah.
which I do, and I'm getting much better at. And
Good.
you're right. I'm listening to you because you say it takes practice. It's not going to happen
Mhm.
overnight. And I think that's a big piece of it. That's my first thing. I'm like, okay, I literally go through the things you've taught me. I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, okay, stop, drop, and breathe. Delight in her,
Hmm.
find the joy with her. And I'm like, okay, we got to create a win-win situation. This is like, I'm literally doing my
That's so
self-talk.
awesome, Beth.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. It's
That's
all you.
awesome.
Yeah. And I'm
Well,
like,
I
okay,
mean,
we
this
got
is a lot of the reason why that stuff doesn't work is because she's not like choosing to be difficult, right?
correct.
And like rewards and punishments operate on the idea that, I mean, they're not good for the sake of themselves, but they're also not good because they don't work, because children are not choosing to be difficult, right? Like that thing that we always say, they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And so when you tell someone, I will give you this thing if you choose, if you, I hate the make good choices. Like I hate when, especially hear that a lot, like so and so didn't make good choices today. Like the kid's not sitting there thinking, I think I'm going to do something really bad. I mean, maybe very occasionally that happens, but mostly it's just they're stressed, right? They're having a hard time. It sounds like transitions are hard for your daughter, and she's very sensitive. So, none of those conventional tools are going to work because she's not actually choosing to be quote bad.
But that is such an incredible aha moment for me in the last few weeks,
Hmm.
which is, it's mind boggling to me that that's such a, I feel like I've done so much, so much reading, so much learning, so much conventional, if you want to call it. And why has it not worked? Like the rewards. I've said those words. That's not a
Hmm.
good choice. You're making a bad choice, you know? And it's not her choice to fall on the floor when, I noticed it right away with her when she was very young. She would come in and, because her typically developing brother is 2 years older than she is. And so I had seen it and do preschool and all those things the same. When she would come in from let's say wherever she was, let's say preschool, and she would come in, she would just stand at the door and fall on the floor and cry. And I'd be like, what? Like my mind was just blown. But I wasn't calm about it. I'd be like,
Right.
oh, like get your shoes off. Like even as a 3-year-old, I'm like, get your shoes off. Let's go. Let's go. Like, why are you? Because I was a very efficient person. And
Hmm.
I value efficiency and getting things done. And sure, call me type A, call me controlling, whatever. But I like things done in a certain way. I'm like, let's go. I have completely shifted my mindset in the last little while. That's made such a huge difference for me. And I'm trying to help shift the other people in our family too, saying that, you know what? Yeah, she is upset, but instead of, the term co-regulating. Now, I don't know if we've talked about that a lot. I can't remember,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Let me just, for people who are listening who don't know co-regulation, what that means. So self-regulation is when you're upset and you can calm yourself, right? And of course, that's our first big idea, peaceful parenting. The way that humans learn self-regulation is, through their, infancy and early childhood, they learn to self-regulate through someone else, through co-regulating with another calm presence. So when you have a baby who's upset, you're holding the baby, you're rocking the baby, you're making soothing noises to the baby. And that's our natural instinct to co-regulate when we have an upset baby. You know, I, slightly off topic, but we tend to lose that as kids get older because we think they should be able to do it, right? We sort of we as they grow, we move away from that instinctual soothing that we did when they were infants, but they still need it. So we adults
and some more
co-regulate
than
with each
others.
other. Yeah, and some more than others. But adults co-regulate with each other, right? So
Right.
co-regulation is when you can use your calm to help somebody else calm down, or when someone else who's upset can use your calm to help themselves calm down. So it's like a two-way interaction of the nervous system, one calm nervous system helping another nervous system that's dysregulated. So that's co-regulation.
But to me, that was like, it's like a game changer in my life. And not just for Sophie, but like that concept. And I don't know why I've lived all these years and not been aware or not been able to utilize it or not know. I've utilized it in other ways too, with my partner, with my husband, with my father, who definitely has the, let's say, the tendency to have an explosive personality. Let's put it that way. And, and gets upset about things. He's obviously older, but like I know that when I am calm against his storm, he can then bring it down a notch. And it's the same thing with Sophie. And it really is an incredible thing.
Well, and the opposite of that is when you meet somebody's dysregulation with your own dysregulation, what happens? It escalates,
Correct.
right? So
Everybody escalates.
when you have an upset child and you meet them with upset, they get more upset. So, that's it's funny. It's simple, but it's
Right.
hard, right?
That's
It's simple, but it's
exactly
hard.
it. It's simple, but it's hard. I'm like thinking, why is this an aha moment for me? And I hope it's an aha moment for other people too, because I'm telling you, for me, that has been like the key piece to helping her even a little bit. And ever since it's only been a very short while since I've met you and started to do this, but I've actually seen the shift, which
Mm-hmm.
is which I haven't seen it with the sticker charts and the, if you brush your teeth without crying or whatever, let's go to the dollar store. We've done that many times. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, none of that works,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and the reason why it's hard, why co-regulation is hard, because we are programmed, like our nervous systems are programmed, our emergency response system are programmed that if our child is experiencing an emergency, and back in evolutionary, back in caveman times or early in evolution, it would be like a tiger's just jumped out in front of them, and then they go into fight, flight, or freeze to be safe from the tiger. And when we see our child go into fight, flight, or freeze, our nervous system assumes we also need to go into fight, flight, or freeze to save them, right? To save them from the tiger or whatever it is. But when it's your child's upset because they don't want to brush their teeth, and then you go into fight, flight, or freeze because they're upset because they don't want to brush their teeth, it's not as useful, right? It's not like a useful protective mechanism. So we have to fight against it by actively trying to calm ourselves so we can do that co-regulation piece.
But the piece of the actively trying to calm yourself is so challenging when your
Yeah,
child is having a hard time.
it is. It absolutely is.
I feel like when, for example, like right now, I'm not currently working right this minute. I'm not working full time, but my typical life is I do work full time, and I have a son. I have a son with medical needs, which requires a lot of my energy. And when I have all of those things being thrown at me, and I imagine all of your listeners and all of our listeners today have many different, as parents, we have so many different things we have to juggle right now. In this current time right now, I'm spending so much of my energy because things got in such a really, really bad place with Sophie. I was determined to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so highly motivated to see her get better and to help her and support her because I'm really prepared to do the hard work right now to help her in the future. I pray, I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm praying that the work that I'm doing today and the work that my husband and I are both doing today are going to help her as she gets older. And I want to have a unicorn teenage experience like
Mm-hmm.
you have. That's my
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
I really do, because I was not an easy teenager. My
Yeah.
husband was not an easy teenager. We don't have the best relationships with our parents that I would dream of for my own children and me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want that. And I didn't, bring children into this world to,
Fight with them.
watch them. Yes. Watch them be miserable is what I was going to
Yeah.
say, or,
Yeah.
not have a positive relationship. My end result is so clear in my mind that I want my child to come to me and tell me when something's going on as a teenager. I don't want them, I want them to me. I want me to be their person, or us.
Yeah.
We want
Yeah.
us to be their people, if you will.
Well,
And
you're at the perfect time then. And for anyone listening, it's never too late. So tell us about Sophie and like what are the challenges? I mean, you can even talk about this morning if you want, and maybe we can see if
sure.
there's anything I can help you with. I mean, you're actually a lot of the way there in terms of
Well, because
recognizing the importance.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, in terms of recognizing the importance of the self-regulation piece and then the co-regulation
But that's
piece.
new. This is all new in the last few weeks. If you would have spoken to me before I met you, I was like, but I'm like literally I'm taking notes of everything you're saying because
I love my type A. I love my type A clients and community members.
right? Because I couldn't do it anymore. We all weren't functioning. We talk about if I could if I could wave my magic wand and have this perfect family, okay, which obviously is silly, but whatever, like let's just, in magical world, I would want us to be calmer,
Mm-hmm.
more peaceful, and communicating better without, the intensity, the very, very, the intensity. And I know that, kids and, they're going into those ages. I know it's tough. Anyway, Sophie.
Well, so before you go there though, you seem like an intense person. I don't know what your husband's like, but there will always
He's not.
be. He's not okay.
Not
I
as, that's
think
for
you
sure.
can, I think you can go, I think your goal can be more peaceful, but with intense people in your family, there's always, even if you're working the tools, even if you're, being successful at, using the approach in your mindset and the tools and everything, because are an intense person, there's still going to be a level of intensity. Right. So
Yeah, that's
I want
fair
to get
and very true.
realistic about, our family. You should see us play board games. Like everybody's yelling at each other. Like
Right.
we're having fun, but
It's
often it's very loud at our house
high
because we're
energy.
all intense people and we all want to get our words in. And I wouldn't call it like a calm, peaceful household. I mean, it's peaceful. Anyways, I'm going on, but you just want to adjust your expectations
I think
because
that's fair.
you're never going to have like everyone's just so mellow
Yeah, but that's
and
not, yeah, agree.
yeah.
Agree. But it was the opposite of that. I'll tell you that. And I think it came to the point, in particular with Brandon, with my middle son, where he would really just like, for example, we'd be walking to school and we'd have a really tough morning with Sophie with lots and lots of meltdowns. That's the way I would describe it. I don't know if you want to call them when you're 8. I don't know if you call them a tantrum. I don't
Meltdown
know.
is I think tantrum has a pretty negative connotation. I
Okay,
think meltdown is a fair word. And adults have meltdowns, it's not an age
true.
specific thing.
Okay, fair. But yeah, I mean, her meltdowns could last for 40 minutes sometimes in the morning, sometimes longer, just crying and crying. And I didn't, I just over really nothing in my opinion. I'm learning now. I have to validate.
Yeah.
See,
We
I'm
don't get to
learning.
decide what's worthy of upset or not.
Exactly. We cannot decide. This morning it was she couldn't find the charger for her iPad, which of course is I'm sure a constant thing. A lot of people can relate to that one, a lot with the electronic stuff. And she wanted me or my husband to come and help her look for it. And we're like, no, like that's not something we're doing right now. We're both doing other things. We're busy. We're getting Jared ready. We're getting ourselves ready. We are doing whatever we're doing, and we're not coming to get it. And that was like, just throw on the floor. Like she throws herself on the floor and she's crying. And it's like literally the end of the world, like a 0 to 100. And I think because she does sometimes have a tendency to go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly, that has been really the biggest challenge. And so, yeah, the
Okay, so
intensity of her emotions.
there's let me just give you some feedback around that interaction that you just described. I think that you unintentionally escalated her from 0 to 100 by saying, "No, we're not going to help you look for it. I'm busy doing this. Your dad's busy doing this." What if instead you could have said something like, "Oh, you can't find your iPad charger? You know what? Keep looking. And as soon as I'm done with," I imagine you could have, finished what you were doing and then helped her look for it. Is that the
Sure.
case? Yeah.
Sure. Of
So
course.
instead of saying no, which is going to escalate her fight, flight, or freeze response of like despair and hopelessness, and I'm never going to find the iPad charger and no one's going to help me, right? Which is what happened when you said no. Instead of saying that, you say, okay, I hear how you really are having a hard time finding it. You keep looking. And as soon as I'm done doing packing the lunches or whatever it was that you were doing, I will come and help you look. Okay. So how do you think that would have gone over with her?
Okay, so this is my thing. Okay, that's no, I love it. I think that that script is beautiful and I love it. Here's my question. And this is actually, I want to instill in her, and this is just an example, obviously, the iPad charger was just an example, a level of responsibility also for herself.
Yeah.
Go find it yourself. I don't like, and I'm not going to I get what you're saying, the way I say it, but like in my mind, that's not a hard thing to do. Now, sometimes things are harder than others, and I realize I need to go help her, right? No problem. But like, to me, she was just being like, I don't want to do it. Does that matter? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, should I care in that moment, or should her emotions and sort of keeping her emotionally regulated, especially in the morning when it's such a tight time frame and we're all, on that pressure, is that my priority, or is my priority teaching her to like be an independent, responsible human?
So nobody can learn when they're upset though, right? Like
True.
that's not when you're upset and your brain is gone offline, it's not a good learning time. Second of all, she's only 8. She has lots of time to turn into a productive, responsible adult, right? So and it may have been that was her way of saying, pay attention to me.
Yeah, that's probably true. However, I had already given her, we do something in the morning. We do we call it joy time. Okay,
Oh,
she
that's
named
lovely.
it. It's time consuming and it's a commitment. Okay. Now I'm used to it, but when I first had to start. See, listen to it. My phrasing is bad. Let's refine. When at first I had the opportunity of doing the joy time with my daughter, I was like very bitter about it. I was like, I don't want to do this. This is taking my time away from, you know, whatever, all the bazillions of things I have to do in the morning, even if it means, creating a better outfit for myself or putting on a little mascara, like, any of those things. It was taking time away from, forget about the basics. Okay. Making lunches and breakfast and all that stuff. This was like, this is taking time away. But I tried to reframe it and say, instead
Good.
of, I really tried. I'm like, okay, this is going to give her what she needs to start her day. So we don't have, so I put a timer on my phone. We do 3 minutes. And of course, she always is asking for more. But I said, 3 minutes is what you get. Mommy will do anything you want. We usually lie in her bed and either look at pictures or read a book or we snuggle. And she gets to choose 3 minutes of my time before we start our day. Because what would happen was she would wake up in the morning and first thing out of her mouth was, despair. Now, granted, that started, I think, in January when things were not great with Jared. So I think that was also a big piece of it because, there were so many things happening in our family at that time. And so I think she was really looking for a lot more from us. But it would go from like her eyes would open and then it would just be like meltdown, right?
Yeah.
When her eyes would open. And I'm like, wow, like that is a
That sounds
tough way to
tough.
start our day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started doing the 3 minutes of joy
Yeah.
time.
So exactly. So I'd already given her joy time this morning.
Okay.
So in my
So
mind, I'm like, I've given you your joy time. Go be an independent human now,
okay,
kind of
so
thing.
so you have a kid who's extra, right? Who's sensitive, who's extra, who has, I know that your older son's needs are really obvious because they're physical, but her needs are also large, right? And 3 minutes might not be enough time for her. She might need more
Wow. Okay.
attention and connection from you. For I'm not saying you have to do joy time for more than 3 minutes, but I'm just saying if there are other things that are happening in the morning where she's asking for you to attend to her, sometimes kids can't say, like, I just need you to pay more attention to me. So they'll say, I can't do it. I need
Correct.
you to do it
Correct.
for me. Right. Like
That's
that's
exactly
their,
what this was.
yeah.
Instead, it was probably, I just need mommy a bit more.
Yes, you got it,
Right.
Beth. You're such a quick study. So what happened there was that you responded from a place of fear. So we always say in peaceful parenting, what if you could respond from a place of love instead of a place of fear, right? So that's our choose love or choose radical love that we talk about. And the fear was, she has to learn how to find her own things, right?
Yes.
That was the fear. You responded from that place of like, I need to raise a responsible adult. I can't be
Yes.
rescuing her every time she can't find
Yes.
her
Yes.
charger. But instead of responding from the place of fear next time, what if you could respond from a place of love? Like, she's saying that she needs me. She needs my help. She needs my attention. She needs something from me. How can I fill that need? And as I said, I didn't say that you drop everything to find her iPad charger. I said that you say, listen, honey, as soon as I can, I'm going to come and help you find it. Why don't you keep looking? And at least she'll know, at 8, she can probably,
She'd be okay with that, I think.
yeah.
She might have been, I don't know. This morning was a little intense, but it's possible that would have done, I think
If
she
you
would have,
said it in a loving, compassionate way, she
correct,
probably would have
correct,
accepted that I will help you look for it before we leave the house.
correct. And I think one of my other big things that I've learned so much in the last little while, very recently, is I always said the right things, quote unquote, if you will. Like I always said, yeah, I know how you feel. That's really tough. But I was saying it with deep, it's
Like
so me.
inside, you were
It's
really
so,
pissed off.
yeah, my heart was
Yeah.
saying, get over it. Let's move on. This is ridiculous. What is wrong with you? Why are you crying about, you know,
Oh, that was the
whatever it is?
patterning. It sounds like that's how you were treated when you were little,
Correct.
right? So you're going to
Correct.
have to work really hard against that inner voice that says, this is ridiculous, because that's how you were treated, right?
Correct.
So,
Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna try not to cry. This is like a lot.
mhm.
Wow. It is, but that's exactly what the message was for me.
And that's why we always say how we speak to our children becomes their inner voice.
And that is why I want to do better.
Mhm.
Because
Boom.
what could be more important? What could be more important than her inner voice?
Mhm. Yeah.
To grow into a teenager, an adult, a woman, like that would be my if I could give her one gift, that would be, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
and
what better gift
probably,
could I give her? If I could give her
yeah.
one gift is to have a positive, compassionate, kind inner voice for herself. Oh my, what a gift for my 8-year-old.
That would be amazing.
I,
You're
I,
on your
I,
way.
oh, I love
So,
you. Thank you.
so,
That's
so
such a
this is
nice
the
thing to
thing.
say.
Your parents probably responded to you in the way that they did because they thought that was the best way to build up your resilience, right?
Well, they built
They
it.
wanted they wanted you to be somebody who, who didn't get bowled over by the small things and blah blah blah.
Correct.
But that doesn't work. Like that, trying to shove away our feelings is not resilience. Resilience is not that you don't get upset. Resilience is that you are upset and you feel your feelings and you recover, right? That's resilience.
Wow.
Resilience, if it's the other thing, pushing away our feelings, it makes us avoid hard things. When we can't push away the feelings, it makes us, not be able to bounce back. So really the key to resilience is letting her be upset. I say letting her, but,
Right. Allowing
letting
the
her be
feelings.
upset. Exactly.
Allowing the
Welcoming the
feelings. Right.
feelings. Yeah. About the small, the quote, small stuff that to you and I seem ridiculous, or to you and me seem ridiculous, but to her it's important, right? And also looking at, like, maybe it's not the surface thing, maybe it's not really the iPad charger that's important, but it's like, does my mom see me? Is she going to pay attention to me? Do my needs matter? Right?
Correct. I love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I think that it's a game changer
Mm-hmm.
to me. So I'm so incredibly grateful, Sarah, that I found you in that Google search that day,
I'm so glad
because
you did also.
I am like, I post this, it's just over there on my wall, the little calendar with the stickers. The
The
kids give me stickers if I use
respectful
a
voice
respectful
chart.
voice,
Yeah. How
and
are you
I'm doing
doing?
great. You'll be very
Good.
proud of me. My
Yeah.
son's a critic. My son's a critic. If I even have one, Sophie's a lot more giving. She's like, "You get a sticker today, mommy." But Brandon's a little bit more, "You said one thing at dinner that I didn't like." I'm like, "Okay, so no fun, no sticker today for me." I'm like, even for that one like little comment. But yeah, no, it's great.
Well,
So
for anyone listening, that's part of my free How to Stop Yelling at Your Kids course, which you can get at sararosensweet.com/yelling if anyone else wants to join Beth in the respectful voice chart. But yeah, that's
yeah,
really,
so just I
you're
wanted to
doing
say what it
great.
is, just so the kids
Yeah,
give stickers, just so if people who aren't aware, the kids give you stickers if you use a respectful voice to them
instead of
throughout the
yelling.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of yelling. And I told them about them. I told them about it. They were like, "Okay." I'm like, "Mommy's taking a course." I told them on how
Hmm.
to, become a better parent, and they were like, "Okay." They were like very with it, and they're like, "Okay," and they love it.
Nice.
At the end, right before bedtime, they read out, they pick their little sticker, they put it on the chart, and I
That's
do like a little
awesome.
celebration dance, and
All right. So what are we going to work on? We're going to work on continuing to work on all the things that you've already been working on with the,
stop, drop, and breathe. It's
yes,
huge.
stop, drop, and breathe. For anyone who's listening who doesn't know stop, drop, and breathe, it's our pause button when we're starting to feel upset or when we've already gotten upset. So stop what we're doing, clap a hand over your mouth if you need to, or turn away. Drop your agenda just for a minute. Like, so whatever you're trying to get your kid to do or not do, forget about it just for even a few seconds. Just drop your agenda and breathe, because that sends a signal to your body and your brain that it's not an emergency. And the reason why we're yelling is because it feels like an emergency and our amygdala has gotten activated and thinks it's an emergency. So when we breathe, it's a signal to the brain and body, this is not an emergency. And you can even say to yourself a mantra like, this is not an emergency, or the one you were saying, like, she's not giving me a hard time, she's having a hard time.
Hmm.
But using one of those mantras to bring yourself back to calm, or calmer at least, right? So using your own self-regulation, your pause button, so that you can co-regulate with Sophie when she's upset, giving her that anchor of you, right, in your nervous system to de-escalate things rather than escalate things.
I think
And
that to me, that what you just said about having our nervous systems match, or having mine calm so she can come and co-regulate with me, is probably the biggest key.
yeah, no, it's huge. And that's always the place to start. And so working on that, and then also, trying to recognize the need that's underneath, like we talked about the charger, right? Right. And instead of looking at the surface need, think, oh, what else is she trying to tell me here with this challenging
Hmm.
request or challenging behavior, and not responding from a place of fear of, I've got to make sure she, goes up to be a responsible adult. Like, what can you
When you
do?
say it, it sounds silly, but when I think it makes total sense.
Well, but we all want our kids to grow up to be responsible adults.
Okay,
Like,
right.
it's a very valid desire that we all have. We just have to remember that it's a long game, right? It's not like going to be made or lost in one
One
little
day.
interaction in the moment of she can't find her charger.
Right.
And if you do have a kid, like, I don't know if this is Sophie, but for anyone listening who has a kid who is constantly losing things, what kind of systems can you help them put in place? My husband is like a total systems person, and I'm very, very disorganized. And the other day, my 22-year-old son was at home visiting, and I couldn't find something. And he said, exactly in a perfect imitation of his father, well, if you had a system for that, you would know where it was. It was
I love
very
it.
funny. But anyway, systems are important if people are losing
Agree.
things. So but that's like a zooming out question to look at those systems, not in the moment. I'm not going to help you find it because I want you to be responsible, right? So what could you do if you could let go of that fear that you're operating from?
Ooh, that's tough.
And instead,
That's a
like,
tough one for me. Even when you
yeah.
say it, I feel my heart going, how can I let go of that? I can't, because that's like
Well,
so deeply
well,
ingrained.
let's talk about that for a second. Where do you think that fear is coming from, and how does it show up?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one because I feel that when you say that, I feel that like right in my heart. I feel like she needs to be independent. Like that is like so important to me. Maybe I'm thinking, where's that coming from? I think, I don't know. It's tough. I think maybe there's a couple things. One is that it's something I really value.
Hmm.
I value a strong, I really want to raise a strong, independent woman in particular, and son, but and boy, but like we're talking about her right now. I think in my mind, because she is more on the disorganized end of things, let's say, and she is the one who doesn't, who is losing things all often. I would say all the time, but often, and will require systems, and does require systems. Then it's my fear. Yeah,
Hmm.
how is this kid going to function in life? This is what I think because I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I am more like your husband. I have the systems and I use them and they work.
Well,
And it's
also,
easier.
I've been a relatively successful adult, and I'm really quite disorganized. So if that makes you feel any better, like,
It does. It
of
does.
course,
But I'm like, how is she ever going to function?
I function pretty well, and I don't have very good systems. But so a couple of things on that. One is, as you want to remind yourself, it's not made and lost in one interaction in one day. The other thing to remind yourself is that your influence on her is more about just living your life in your values than it is about constructing her and her values, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
interesting.
Like, there's a metaphor, I think it's Alison Gopnik who wrote a book called The Gardener and the Carpenter, and sort of their two metaphors of parenting. There's the carpenter metaphor, who thinks we have to build up the child and construct this child, right? And then there's the gardener metaphor, where you believe you plant the seed, and
Oh,
then you
wow.
provide the amount of warmth and water and soil conditions and all of that for your child to just grow into the human
Oh,
being that they
wow.
can become.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it lovely? So I want us to be gardeners, not carpenters, and really remember she has, you're providing the conditions for her to grow into the person that she's going to become, rather than that you have to do things to her to make her the
Oh,
person that
wow.
she's going to
I
become.
need to get that. What did you say was a book?
Yeah, I actually haven't read the book. I've just read about the book. So, but it's called The Gardener and the Carpenter.
Wow. I'm going to
I,
look into
I
that for
think
sure.
something like, well, yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, so just think of yourself as like, she's going to develop and grow and learn. And she's going to learn as she gets older, to be more organized if she can't find her things. And it's not, of course you can help her with systems. But I also want you to think about this, Beth. At what cost to the relationship? This is especially important as kids are getting older. But when you think about, I could put my foot down and insist that she has to find her charger herself, or I could say, yeah, of course, I can help you with that. In the first example, you got a big meltdown and, set you back maybe a little bit in your overall, your Goodwill bank account and how things were feeling, and also how the morning went for the family.
For
So
sure.
you want to think about, like, is this really worth it? Like, even if I do decide, yes, I'm going to make her look for her charger, is it worth it?
Hmm. Interesting. You have to really be extremely, to be, you have to like do a lot of thinking. So
Yeah.
a lot of self reflection there on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. And you really remembered, when we go back to what I suggested that you say, it wasn't drop everything and go look for her charger. Encourage her to keep looking until you can help her. And then if she still hasn't found it, then you will help her, right? So we're not saying that she shouldn't be independent at all. We're just saying, I've got your back.
I think that is really important to remember. because it's kind of either yes or no. I'm either going to help you, or I'm not going to help you. But
Yeah.
instead, you gave me something in the middle, which I
Yeah.
think is really, really brilliant, because instead of saying yes or no, there's that gray. Okay, gonna go try by yourself first,
hmm
and now mommy will help you as soon as she can.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
So you're
And then
still encouraging
I
her.
think there'd be a little bit more cooperation there. I think that she would be more willing
hmm
in that, obviously, in a scenario that's similar to that in the future, which definitely will come up for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm going to hazard a guess that you two get in a lot of power struggles that result in her meltdowns.
I would say we used to way more.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's
I'm
just
better.
something to keep your eye on.
Yes.
And that was a power struggle this morning. No, I'm not going to help you look for your charger, right?
I think that has been a big part of our relationship. Yes. This is what I'm working on, though.
Good.
And I'm
Good.
committed to making things
Great.
better for her.
Great. Well, you're already
And
on
us.
your way. So we will
Thank you.
check in 3 weeks or a month, and we will
Okay,
see
perfect.
how things have been, and we'll fine tune anything that needs fine tuning. And thank you, and I'll talk to you then.
Thank you for everything.
Hello, Beth. Welcome back.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good.
All right. So lay it on me. How we talked about 4 weeks ago? How have things been?
So, it's interesting. I think maybe overall, maybe the big picture, things are a bit better. Maybe. It's hard to see and it's hard to feel, especially this morning. It's after the long weekend. And we were just saying, like, I think it's the morning. We had a rough morning today
Mhm.
getting out. And I was like, oh, it was very tough. It was probably her hardest morning in a really long time. And it was one of those days where nothing was right.
Yeah,
Nothing was right.
just for context, we're getting close to the end of the school year, and there was just a 3-day weekend with no school, as you said, the long weekend. So when you have an intense 8-year-old and you have the end of the school year is always not for every kid, but it's often a very difficult time, and we wouldn't normally think of it as a difficult time because it's like woohoo, summer, like whatever, but it's a big unknown that they're stepping into, right? Like I've gotten used to this year and what's next year going to be like, who's my teacher going to be? And this is especially acute, and this wouldn't be for Sophie, but especially acute at like transition years, like kindergarten to grade 1, grade 6 to grade 7, grade 8 to high school kinds of things. But anyhow, okay. So tell me a bit about the morning. Oh, and I also just wanted to say, if you have seen improvement in 4 weeks, that's great, because sometimes when we have our more extra
Maybe.
kids, it's up and down. It's 2 steps
Very
forward,
up
1
and
step
down.
back.
Yes.
And we
yes.
have to think over a period of years, not weeks or months.
Okay. And I think that's definitely, thank you, because I'm feeling, yes. Like, I think overall, the intensity and the frequency of her meltdowns have been less. And I think a huge part of that is you. I know that sounds like I'm giving, but okay. Not you, but
It's what I've learned
speaking,
it's what you've learned from
yes.
me that you've been able to
Correct.
apply. So it's you.
Correct.
Okay.
It's me through what I've learned. Exactly.
Mhm.
And I am so deeply committed to, doing better for her as a parent and being there more for her, really, really empathizing, being showing compassion is my like number one. Where
Good.
before I met you and before peaceful parenting came into my life, I would have said that my number one goal, and maybe I wouldn't have said it, but my behavior would have been my number one goal was efficiency and get things done. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
That but that concept of drop your agenda just for a minute, right?
Mhm.
And I do this in my mind. Stop your agenda, Beth, just for a minute. It doesn't matter if she doesn't put on her shoes right this minute or eat the fruit right this second. She's emotionally not there yet. She can't do those things. And I think that has been, there's been a lot of game changers, but I think that one has been really big for me because it's completely shifted my focus from, and of course you've said this before and I've heard it before, but like that idea of she's not giving me a hard time. And that was definitely like, why is she driving me nuts? Like my lens was very much like, let's get things done. Let's get out of the house. Let's, go. And now I've completely, and my behavior has shifted.
Good.
And I think because of that, I know, thank you. I'm so motivated and committed. And I feel like my husband is also now watching me And then in that case, then also trying to model that same exact behavior, which is great.
Good. And
it's far from perfect.
Well, I was going to say the other piece of it is I'm going to give you another thing to remind yourself along the lines of not giving me a hard time, having a hard time. It's not won't, it's can't, right? Like if there's something that you want her to do or whatever that she's not doing, she wants to be, quote, good and be in connection with you and be on the same team as you. And sometimes there are things that maybe looks like she won't do it, but maybe she can't do it, right? Maybe she can't do it.
But this is what I actually need your help with. She's 8, born in January. It's now May. She's almost 8.5. And in my mind, an 8.5-year-old should be able to do these things without me interfering. Like not interfering, that's not the right word.
Assistance?
Support. Assistance, sure.
Well, give me an example. What are we talking about?
Get dressed. Like, why do you need my help? You don't need me. But
we talked about this last time though, that she saw that she was seeing this as connection and attention and nurturing.
No, but I guess my personality is so different from that, right? Like I am so much more independent, get it done. Like I think you hear that. And so it's less about, so I have to reframe that also. It's less about she needs help getting dressed and more about she wants my attention, support, nurture.
And also her agenda is not your agenda. She probably doesn't want to go to school. She probably wants to stay home and
cuddle
and be with you.
Yeah, cuddle, snuggle, play. Exactly.
Yeah. So she doesn't have the intrinsic motivation at this moment to like get up, get dressed, all of the things.
Really does not.
And if she felt that your love and approval depended on that, that might be the extrinsic motivation. But we don't want to raise kids with that fear, right? Like my mom's not going to like be nice to me or love me or whatever if I don't do everything on her timeline.
Correct. And that I think has been the biggest shift. So this morning I was just saying that everything was, and you gave me these words actually on one of our other times when we spoke, and I loved it. It's helped me. I don't know if it's helped her, but because she really pulls pulls. It's not the right terminology. She really is having a hard time with, see, I still have to reframe it with getting dressed and picking clothes that she's comfortable with. So she has these shorts on and they're too long and they're too short and it's all that sensory and they're too hurting her and they're too.
And so remember that sensory stuff is nervous system activation and we don't have any control over that. She's not choosing to like be picky about the shorts. Like there's just something.
It feels like it, Sarah.
I'm sure it feels like it. There's something about, like say you have someone who had a really, really sensitive nervous system and, loud noises and bright lights overwhelmed their nervous system and made them, shut down or have a meltdown or whatever. I think you would be able to see that as like, oh, they're really, nobody wants to do that in public. That's out of their control. This like sensory overload meltdown. Back it up, 20 paces. And that's where Sophie's at, right? It's still the same continuum. Her reaction is maybe not as extreme, but she's still having a nervous system, unconscious, automatic reaction to the sensory stuff that bugs her and registers as a threat to her nervous system.
Yes. But then her meltdowns register as a threat to my nervous system.
And, right? I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but that's like a biological protection mechanism for us to protect our kids because we like our threat response system thinks if their threat response system is activated, it must be a true emergency. So then we go into fight, flight, or freeze to protect our child, right? So that's where you put in all of the interruptions that you mentioned, stop, drop, and breathe. You put in that pause button and you tell yourself, even though Sophie is having a meltdown right now, I'm safe, she's safe, and this is not an emergency.
It is a game changer. Just that last 30 seconds of what you just said is just like an entire game changer for our family. So yes, because I am able to do it. So then there's another question I wanted to ask you. And she did this morning and she hadn't done it in a while. Okay. But she now started doing it. She did it this morning. She did it twice. And I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on this. She shifts the blame to me. You're making me like this. You're making me.
So blame is all about trying to offload uncomfortable feelings. So she feels bad. It's hot potato, right? She feels bad. She feels uncomfortable. She does not like that feeling. So she wants to get rid of it. It's like that, poop rolls downhill metaphor sort of thing, right?
Right.
Or the hot potato, like, I don't like feeling this way. You take it. You feel this way, right?
Wow.
So you can sidestep it. You don't need to take
the blame. What do I say to that?
You don't need to take the blame on. You don't need to reject the blame. You want to sidestep it and go to the feeling. So I know it feels horrible to feel that way. Yeah, I know you really don't like this. So you're not saying it's not my fault. And you're not saying it is my fault. You're just saying, I know it feels really bad.
Okay. Because she's at the point where she's like, it's tough. She's having a very tough time and she wants to shift the blame.
Dysregulated.
Totally dysregulated.
And so
and she shifts it to her brother, which is also hard sometimes because she like blames him. He's making me like this. He's making me. And I'm like,
and you can just say, I know it feels terrible, honey. It feels terrible.
Okay.
Listen, she knows that it's not your fault. She knows that it's not her brother's fault. You don't need to worry that you need to teach her that. She knows that.
All right. Thank you.
In the moment, it feels real. In the moment, it feels like it really is your fault. And in the moment, it feels like it really is her brother's fault. However, when she's back to her own self, she doesn't think it's anyone else's fault.
Okay. So just more empathizing there.
Yeah.
And saying, it does feel tough. I know you're having a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
I also used this weekend once, which loved it. You're a good girl who's having a tough time.
Great.
That was one of your, I know. It was so good.
Great. Yeah.
And honestly, like she didn't say anything after that. It was like a lot. Mm-hmm. It kind of like helped a lot.
Yeah, because you know what? Oftentimes it's like the shame on top of having a hard time that makes kids more dysregulated, right? So at least if she knows that you still think she's a good person, even though she's having a hard time, that's going to help her calm down faster.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the big messages for her as well, because we didn't do that before. Definitely. We probably did.
Well, and you know what? This is all like, it's a path, right? And you're like pretty early on the path. Like it's going to take time to undo old habits, undo old ways of thinking, healing from, conventional parenting that you were doing before. So, I mean, the fact that you are seeing glimpses and you're seeing your own improvement is huge.
Thank you. I guess I want, okay, fine. I know. I want quicker results, but I guess maybe that's just that's
your
my
impatience.
As I said, I want to be efficient. I want it done.
So you can look for the results in your own self. Like, wow, look at how I'm improving in this. Look at how I'm managing this so don't use Sophie as your benchmark for if this is quote working or worth it. Look at your own growth and your own.
Oh, that's an interesting way. Huge. I mean, because you know why? Using all the things that you've taught me that we've just talked about, I feel my own nervous system less. Like when she was freaking out this morning, having her meltdown, I was like, don't get your own nervous system hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
And in my brain, I'm saying this to myself, like you stay calm, you do what you need to do to be there for her.
Because you're laying down new pathways in your brain of new ways of responding.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I feel better. The day starts off better. Even though she's hijacked, I didn't get myself up heightened with her.
And then she's gone and you're not like, oh, I wish I'd handle that better, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you know how many mornings before this I did that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I would drive to work with the worst feeling, just like that really, really heightened state.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that old thing of like, we know this, we can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. Right.
No.
So but
it's easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. And on the same track, like look at your benchmark of like how well you're doing by what you can control.
Okay. That's great. I love that.
And listen, with our more or extra kids, even if we're doing everything quote right, we're still going to have struggles because their brains are not mature yet and they don't have perspective and experience in life, right? Yeah. As they grow and mature and gain more perspective and experience, things smooth out with them.
I'm using you and your family as an example.
Good.
And that is my hope.
Good. Well, and the fact that you're already seeing improvements is great.
I think.
Yeah.
No, we are. Definitely. No. We definitely are. Like I said, in the frequency and the intensity definitely is improving.
Good.
This morning I have a bit of a skewed perception.
Right. Because you had a hard morning. So it's hard to not see things through that lens. However, you've told me, because I've been talking to you periodically in the membership, you've told me like, oh, we had a great win. Like I did this one thing. And she like, you know, got herself back
True.
together. And, you know, you have shared a lot of, you know, small moment to moment wins.
True. I am just so incredibly grateful for finding you.
I'm glad you found us.
Yeah, no, it's just, and the community, like listening and just, it's just such, you know, I've listened to a lot of your previous podcasts and I'm just gaining so much knowledge and it's making our family just so much better. So thank you.
You are so welcome. I'm glad you're in our community. The membership is a special place.
Definitely.
Okay, well, I will see you in the membership, and our listeners, I think they'll have learned a lot from you and your experience. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found this conversation insightful and exactly what you needed in this moment. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Remember that I'm rooting for you. I see you out there showing up for your kids and doing the best you can. Sending hugs over the airwaves today. Hang in there. You've got this.